Hello, it's Logan here, back again, and we're here with another review. This time round we're doing Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm joined by that man again, Apps. How you doing?
Good, thanks, you.
Yeah, good, yeah. Really backed them up lately, haven't we? I was thinking about this the other day, really, well, I say you have actually been churning out some good progress. Hence why we're here.
Yeah, to be honest, I kind of took the summer off, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider kind of plays into that slightly. But once I got Shadow of the Tomb Raider done, I sort of went on a little splurge and finished off bits and pieces that I hadn't started, and I've, looking at some new releases finally. It's getting to that time of year that there's more interesting things coming down the pipe. So done a few over the summer, but really a lot of inactivity, for over the summer months, just generally, I think, across the board for everyone.
I was going to say, the majority of dimps kind of shut down.
They've gone into fucking hibernation.
You get these blockages in the pipe, and it looks like it's just kind of happened for everyone. I've had Spider-Man blocking the pipe, and Fortnite. It's just not really anything squeezing through that at the moment. Adkins, I can't remember what he was stuck on.
He's got a list of about 200 games.
Well, this is the trouble. I mean, he's not really a good case in point, really, because he's perma-stuck on the backlog. Biff has just been chundering through games, playing an hour, binning it, and moving on to the next one like nobody's business. Dave's stuck on Destiny and tweeting and stuff, so he's not moving anywhere soon.
He's minus 500 silver sorted yet. He get told off for screenshotting it and just sharing it with others. So that's the sort of attitude he's got lately.
Paper's out running somewhere. His gaming rut's just permanent at the moment, I think.
Well, he fired up what's name, didn't he? He fired up Minecraft.
Oh yeah, they're on that, aren't they?
Which, well, it's not. It's dead. 1 month it lasted.
Oh, it's dead already, is it?
Well, yeah, because I think so. He basically set up a server for us all to join, and the idea was, if we play it enough, then we'll have to start paying for the server next month. So we'll see how it goes. A lot of activity on there for 3 weeks. 4th week come around, and there was no interest to renew it. So that world is now gone, I think, or at least in hiatus. Although, just funny enough, I've just been on the old Nintendo Switch. Saw that Chappers is on there playing Minecraft. So he's not done with it. I think he was hoping there'd be more of a multiplayer community around him, but Hall, Andy, and Paper seem to have walked away into the dust and left him, which is unfortunate.
Who? Andy?
Sandy. Yeah, she was on it. I mean,
blimey. Got flashbacks of about 8 years ago when we did the original one and she was lurking.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's what can happen. Everyone's stuck in a bit of a gaming rut, but you've come out the other side, played some good games as well, to be fair to you. Some interesting ones, some main games, some smaller games. It's been a bit of a mix, but keep it on track. Here we are, Shadow of the Tomb Raider.
Yes.
The latest instalment.
Yep, the latest instalment of the new sort of rebooted version of Tomb Raider. So we had 2013, which was like the new beginnings of Tomb Raider. So you remember the old PlayStation ones and whatnot. Yep. And I think I had Tomb Raider 2 on the PC that I used to play a lot. I never completed one of them. Going back, trying to play them now, I think you'll be shocked at how appallingly they control and whatnot. But
I've seen it of late. Like every now and again, I see a video of someone going around. Do you remember like on the original Tomb Raider where you could go into a house and do all this bollocks to unlock the quad bike? I was watching a video of that probably only a few weeks ago because I find it interesting to see actually how easy it was compared to how difficult I used to think it was. And just honestly, the controls, you like have to like shimmy to like move 90 degrees round to then jump, and she only jumps like with one set of like at 100%. So it's like it's just appalling. But I don't know how it was ever played. Or it was played, but
well, back then it was critical acclaim, but then I think they've aged really badly. So come 2013, it's kind of due a reboot, really. Everything else has been getting reboots, and Tomb Raider, a beloved franchise, has been done, and it comes out and it's a success, really. The 2013 version, it's a different take on Tomb Raider, and kind of, as I said, reboots the franchise. Lara Croft's not the all guns blazing explorer like she is in many of the older ones. This is kind of like an origin story, which is interesting to see, and it involves a lot more few mechanics like survival mechanics and crafting and unlocking new items to then open up other bits of the map. It's not open world, but it's open hub, so you can go off and do missions and side quests and whatnot. So that was, everyone seemed to enjoy it that played. I don't know many people that didn't like that. They followed that up with Rise of the Tomb Raider, and that then was followed up with Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is supposed to be the end of this trilogy. I don't know whether they'll do any more like this. Seems silly not to, but this is what they've kind of committed to up until this point, is that Shadow of the Tomb Raider will kind of close out this trilogy, and then maybe we'll get another set later on down the line, but we will see, I guess, what happens on that front.
So it basically moved from kind of a level-orientated shoot-'em-up kind of style with a bit of puzzle solving to something a little bit more... I mean, as soon as you said to me survival stuff, I thought, fucking hell, not again.
Oh, yeah, you ain't got to wait for it to have a piss and stuff or drink. None of that stuff. It's more like you scavenge resources, and you kind of need to do that to craft things like grenades and find ammo. Just a little bit more exploration. And if you want to buy things in the shops, for example, best way to do that is to hunt animals and then trade in the pelts. Things like that just weren't present in the older one, that are quite a staple with modern games, to be honest, but it's nice to have a little Tomb Raider kind of spin on it. The other thing to note about Shadow of the Tomb Raider is this has new developers. So Crystal Dynamics were the developers of the Rise of the Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider. This one is Eidos Montreal. Now, Crystal Dynamics are now off doing that bloody Avengers game, so that's what they're doing. Got promoted. There you go, have that. Although, maybe I shouldn't have had that based on what I've seen so far. But Eidos Montreal are, they've been under the Square Enix brand for a while, but they have done games that I've enjoyed previously. They supported on both of the Tomb Raider games, but they have developed Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which was good, and also Deus Ex Human Revolution, which I enjoyed. So
wondered what they were up to. Yeah. The last thing I remember Eidos Interactive doing was Championship Manager 2001 or something. I could have even made that up, but that's what my mind's linked them to.
I think there was an Eidos Interactive.
We need to cut out the bollocks. We're now a bollocksless. Is that right?
Yeah.
We are the Fact Brothers. This has been established, so we can't let bollocks seep into the podcast. So if I'm going to make an assertion, in my head, I'm like, right, I need to validate that.
Yeah, because otherwise you'll be caught out later on.
Yes. Google says Eidos Interactive Championship Manager.
There you go.
Championship Manager 0102.
There you go, the one everyone's favourite.
Right, sorry, we digress. Carry on.
Anyway, so where was I? Eidos Montreal have done Deus Ex basically, and also Thief, which didn't play, but didn't look that good. So it's a new developer, which is a bit strange, to do the third and final instalment. Crystal Dynamics are still supporting, but they're giving the lead here, Eidos Montreal, and it was leading up to it. I looked at some of the footage, and I was not impressed with what I'd seen, but I waited for it to come on Game Pass, which we both have. You have that? Got Game Pass?
Not at the moment.
Cool. You didn't do that thing I told you to do.
What, the £2 for 2 months?
No, there's that thing where you stack like a year's or 3 years worth of Xbox Gold, then you activate Xbox Ultimate for £1, and you get Xbox Game Pass for 3 years.
That must have passed me by at some point.
Bloody hell. Well, that's what I've done. Anyway, Shadow of the Tomb Raider was on that, so...
I've done a biff.
It might still be open if you're lucky, but you may have lost your chance for that. I know Atkins did it, but not for the full 3 years. So anyway, I waited for it to come on that, and then it was there, and I downloaded it and played through it. And I did play through it in one sort of fell swoop, if you like. I actually... About 3 weeks where I didn't play it, and that's when I wasn't playing a lot of games. There was like a 3 to 5 week gap where I just couldn't get motivated. And I don't know whether this was the catalyst for that, or whether it saved me and got me out of the rut. So there's two ways you can look at it.
Well,
either Assassin's Creed Odyssey's caused it,
I reckon that
down,
has. Yeah,
and I couldn't get through this, or this at some point I just was not interested, so it didn't get picked up for a while. I think it's somewhere in between.
Yeah. I reckon that fucking Assassin's Creed wore you out.
Didn't help. It never helps when you feel like that off the back of a game, worn out.
There's a review out for that at the moment. Go and look for it if you haven't listened to it already.
Yeah, should have done.
Yeah,
listen to everything. If you subscribe to the feed, don't skip anything, even if it's wrestling. So,
not sure I've listened to that yet. But the key thing is listen to the reviews. They're important.
They are. There's a lot of lore.
Yeah, they link as well.
Yeah.
That's what you'll notice, is that they're not necessarily truly independent, because we'll reference things from previous or future reviews. So there you go.
Don't miss one, otherwise you'll miss out, as I always say.
It's very true. You will miss out. Good quality stuff, this. I had to mute that because I had a little cackle to myself. Couldn't even keep a straight face. But anyway, so going back to Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you're having a bit of struggle to get into it, but once was that the next one you did after Assassin's Creed?
I think so, yeah. I think pretty much maybe had a week of doing smaller projects and then jumped straight into this, and got probably about in the grand scheme of things maybe halfway through, and then just stopped for might have even been a month, but it felt long when I came back to it. Just could not get into it, but got through it on the other side, and then since then I've been pretty consistent with getting in on the old games and playing them. So it's
sometimes when you break a game up like that, I mean, some games I don't like leaving too long because I think I'll forget the backstory or I'll forget my buttons and stuff, but some games are fine to leave, and then you can pick them up and it doesn't feel like there's necessarily that big a gap, and sometimes it can reinvigorate that experience a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what I needed. The game probably played its part in it for a couple of reasons, which we probably will get into, but you do sometimes need a little bit of a rest, or just something that's not third person adventure. Also, playing those back to back's not always a good idea. You need to find something strange, and something maybe like Do Not Feed the Monkeys coming soon.
There's a link.
Yeah. Don't miss out. Hello.
Sorry, yeah, I was coughing. Yeah, well, that. See, cut that. No cuts anymore. You get how it is. Yeah, so, essentially, you pick this game up. I mean, what are we looking at here? It's set the scene for us. You jump in. Does it continue from the previous one? Is it just a standalone story from the previous two in the trilogy?
There's characters that return. Like your buddy from the first two games return, Jonah. So he's there. So playing those two will obviously help establish who he is, and perhaps some of the adventures that Lara and him have been on previously. What they say this one is supposed to be is the final instalment of Lara Croft's Origin trilogy. I didn't know Origins needed trilogies, in all honesty, but that's what they're trying to get you up to. So I think playing the others is not essential. You can certainly jump in and appreciate the game. There's obviously going to be a few little bits that you might not understand, but the main plot of the game itself is quite standalone and probably its weakest point. The essential theme is that it is. I think it's actually set 2 months after Rise of the Tomb Raider, so it is quite soon afterwards. But she's back at it. Anyway, they're tracking a particular Trinity agent, and Trinity are like they're the bad guys in all of the Tomb Raider games, or at least in this version of it. They're like not an Illuminati. They're not quite that powerful, but they're they've integrated into every society in the world. It seems they've got agents everywhere. They're just looking for power. They're looking for artifacts that will give them ultimate power or can change the world and things like that. And so Lara's constantly trying to stop them from getting something is the basic gist of it. On this occasion, quite early on, like in the opening mission, you get this. You establish where the item is. You get there before Trinity, and you take it. So you take it's a dagger, and that sets off a catalysm that ends up destroying the local town. So what inadvertently by snatching the dagger, Lara has caused the death of hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe it's a bit of a stretch, to die because she's selfishly or not maybe thought about the consequences of her actions and set off this tsunami that wipes out and starts to foreshadow an apocalypse that's coming because of this moment that Lara's responsible for. And the main story itself is trying to stop that apocalypse from destroying the entire world. And so that's what you're doing. It's not anything clever, it's not anything we haven't had before, but it serves its purpose. It's pretty dull. I found that part of the game really dull. The actual narrative, like the tribes and the people you meet, just was not interesting. The antagonists weren't that interesting. The best parts are those early parts where Lara is clearly conflicted on whether to continue or whether to finish up and retire because what she's done has caused all this death, and that's quite an interesting thing to explore, but I don't really stay with it too long. It kind of goes back to, okay, let's try and fix it. Right.
So basically the story is a bit weak. So how do you, I presume the game's relatively linear, or is it falling into a bit of a trap of open worldiness, which I'm guessing is there if you need to do some scavenging, and does that add anything to the game if it's there?
So it's similar to how the two previous games have been designed, in that you have a map that has several zones, and in between the zones will be hub areas where you can meet people, and there's side quests in there, and then you can go out to the little the zones themselves and explore, maybe find secrets, there's missions that take place in there. It's not true kind of open world, it's not like living really and breathing and whatnot, but the main narrative you have to follow in sequence, but you have options to do challenges and side quests and things like that. You can travel back and forth between the zones, but you can't do that in the game itself. You have to use a fast travel mechanic, which really got up my nose for some reason. So you can't physically backtrack. Like, I tried to walk back to the starting point from once I got to like the first hub world and think, I'll just go back to the starting point and just scavenge through, pick up bits that I missed. I couldn't. I had to use the camp mechanic to sit down and then choose an area in the previous zone because a fucking tree had fallen down or something and blocked my path. So immersion wise I was a bit annoyed, but for the sake of it being a video game I was like, well, that's acceptable I guess, but I don't understand why it's done like that, because
you can just about get away with that in this day and age. If that game comes out 10, 15 years ago, that's fine, but the way that games have evolved, it's almost like you don't need separate loading screens and things to break it up like that. It should, you look at the size of some of these maps and Assassin's Creed and Red Dead, and you can walk from one side to the other quite easily. So
I mean, it's an odd thing. I mean, the fast travel mechanic's vital, later game if you don't want to travel to places. But I don't understand why, for those that wanted to do the travel and do the hike and maybe do some dynamic things like hunt a few animals on their way, it wasn't an option there.
It's not hurting anyone, is it? I think that's the point.
No, it's not. And there's levels to these games, as we've always said, and this is just a point that this is not on that top tier level. Like, I keep using Red Dead Redemption as an example, but one thing that really stood out to me in this game, and then I played Days Gone after this, that was truly the rut cleanser, that was, because I've managed to hammer through that big bastard.
Rut cleanser.
Well, that's what I've dabbed it. And Rise of the Tomb Raider and Days Gone are two very different games, but the way they handle, just for example, they handle their cutscenes or their mission integration. So, in these games, these two, you walk up to someone, you press a button, the screen fades black, cutscene develops, they chat, the screen fades black, and then you're back out into the world. In Red Dead Redemption, as we know, you see Dutch just wandering around the camp, and if he's got a little icon on the map that means there's a mission there, you walk over to him. There are no cuts between the camera. It just dynamically shifts you into the cutscene. There's a very natural flow, and then the mission also is the same. It just dynamically flows you out, and there's no hard cuts. And that's not present in Tomb Raider. I didn't really expect it to be, but it's something that I've noticed playing those two games back to back. And Assassin's Creed was the same. Just cut to black, cutscene, cuts again. And, Rockstar sometimes get criticism for being a bit overindulgent with detail, but things like that when you go back and play games that don't have it, it makes it stand out a bit more.
Yeah, I think it raised the bar, Red Dead. So everything you play, even if it come out before Red Dead, is kind of raised to that bar a little bit, because it was that good, and the attention to detail and everything to make it as immersive as possible. You kind of just accept that. You played it for so long, it becomes the norm. So whenever you go back to anything else that's kind of similar in any way, you take bits out from that game and you go, but it's just not as good as that. Which is unfair, because it took them God knows how long to make Red Dead 2, and these people are churning out games a lot quicker.
They've made 3 fucking Tomb Raider games in that space. They've made a whole trilogy.
Yeah, so you can kind of understand why, but it just sours the experience a little bit, I think. It just sort of makes you go,
Yeah, that's why I said earlier there's levels to it, and it's not necessarily mean it's the worst game ever, because it's not at this peak level. It's more to shine a light on the fact that what Rockstar did with Red Dead was extremely good and very unique. Like, it's not the norm. So when things are positive like that, I like to just give them a shout out. But that's not going to ruin a game. It's going to fall in its gameplay, narrative, and mechanics really. So the black screens aside. We've got some other bits and pieces that we can get into.
Yeah. So I guess we've touched on, the story's not too great and that it's pretty linear. You have to jump through these camps to move from area to area. But I'm guessing the story's linear. You kind of go through that. Is it, clear down an area jobby before you move on to the next one?
It can be. I mean, there's in each zone you have tons of things to do. So if you want to mainline it, you can do. That's totally an option. But in each zone, you'll have several things that you can find, and that can range from challenge tombs, which are probably the highlight of the game. Being called Tomb Raider, one of the criticisms of the first two was there actually wasn't much tomb raiding. They absolutely addressed that with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. These challenge tombs are basically large scale puzzles where you need to figure out how to get from one end to the other, and ultimately you'll be rewarded with an item of some sort that will just help you on your quest. You can upgrade Lara and get new skills and bits and pieces like that. So they are probably the highlight. Outside of the main game itself, they're really good. You've then got side missions that you can activate. So if someone's just hanging around in a zone or in a hub, you can walk up to them and they'll say, "Oh, someone's nicked me eggs," or so. Honestly, it's not that bad, but it's some bullshit that you'll go through on that particular one. There's relics that you can pick up, which are just items to discover, documents. To pick up, obviously, murals, which are there to give you a little bit more insight into the lore of that particular zone. And some of the murals you can't translate unless you've had the necessary level up for that particular language and dialect. It sounds very complicated. It's not. It's just a meter. You can find monoliths, survival caches. What else is there? Crypts, which are kind of like a tomb but not quite as intense. You kind of just get to A to B, and then at the end there's a little crypt to open, and that will give you a special ability. Treasure chests, then obviously the hunting mechanic where you can hunt animals and search for gold, and all this stuff's either to level up Lara, level up a weapon, get you a new mod, or to sell at the merchants for gold, which you can then buy new weapons and bits and pieces for.
Is it fun, or is it sometimes a bit monotonous?
You don't have to do it. That's the thing. It's not like Assassin's Creed Odyssey where it forced me to do stuff I didn't want to do. I could have, if I wanted to, I could have breezed through this and gone, I'm going to ignore the challenge tombs, I'm going to ignore all the side quests, I'm going to ignore documents, crypts, whatever. I'm just going to bin them all off and just go through the game. But no, I did my classic thing where I start off doing and exploring and experiencing as much as the game has to offer. And I keep doing that until basically I get a bit bored with any of the activities, and slowly that narrows itself down and I focus on the main story. I didn't do every side quest. I've probably done about 8 or 9, and obviously done the main campaign, done about 80% of the challenge tombs, and I was happy with that. And I was pleased that I didn't have to do 100% of them all, or even do them at all. I could have just completely ignored them if I didn't like doing them. So it's there as an option, and it's not going to penalise you if you don't do it. Obviously you'll be a little bit more powerful if you do go down that route and do bits and pieces, but you can get through the game just for the natural progression the game offers you.
That sounds like a positive after the rocky ride that we've come through on Assassin's Creed anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it's basically do what you want, but if you want to mainline it, crack on. Might be a bit more challenging because you said you unlock bits and bobs by doing the other bits, which is kind of standard fare for a game.
Yeah.
Even in other games, it's like, well, you get XP for doing it. You might get money, currency, or whatever. So sounds all reasonable stuff. So I guess moving on from that, in terms of what the graphics are like, are they, we're clearly not looking at old school Tomb Raider here. We're clearly looking at something that looks pretty good. You would expect.
Yeah, no, it looks lovely. One of its strong points for sure. There's a lot of Lara looks good. All the main characters look good. The environments look nice. The animals, everything looks pretty good. The people in the hub worlds look a bit ropey. A little bit wooden. But
dodgy voice acting.
Well, funny you should say that, actually, because there's a really strange option. One thing that Shadow of the Tomb Raider does really well is actually give you options to sort of tweak the experience to how you want it. So before I get on to the voice part, there's a really cool thing in there which I didn't dabble with because I don't like to come away from like the base game's difficulty, but you can obviously adjust the difficulty like you would with any game. There's like extra hard, medium, easy, super. There's all these, maybe 5 settings or so. So you choose one and normally stick with it. But what they do also is give you free sub options where you can adjust the difficulty for combat separately, puzzles separately, or traversal separately. So if for whatever reason on a sort of standard setting you're finding the combat too easy, you can hike just the combat up. Say that you're struggling with puzzles, or in fact you don't like puzzles, you don't like having to look around the environment and work things out. You can set the puzzle setting to easy, which will mean there's far more on-screen prompts, and Lara will prompt more as well. So it's really interesting how they kind of gave people that option to change the experience and split up the game into those 3 categories and of traversal, combat, and puzzles, because that's really what makes up the pillars of the game, are those 3, and it was interesting to see that they'd recognised that and given them each individual difficulties to play with. But going back to what I was saying about the voice acting, across the board it's generally okay, it's serviceable, but they give you an option where you can, because you're in South America, so the native people there in theory won't speak any English. Which makes sense, doesn't it? You think, well, yeah, they wouldn't be speaking English, like this remote village in the fucking Amazon. They're not going to be... They ain't, are they? They ain't going to be understanding this podcast.
Turns out they went to Cambridge. Unbelievable coincidence.
Well, I'd be shocked if any of them had got over there. They didn't look like they'd left this lot. This inward tribe. Anyway, so if you want to add to the immersion, you can change the... voice so that the natives speak in their native language. So rather than them speaking in English, they'll speak in Portuguese or Spanish, whatever
Swahili.
language. Well, I don't know what they speak. They might have made it up on this one. It could be anywhere, but but Lara being a seasoned sort of globetrotter can understand them, which is great. I thought that's a really good thing to include. But when Lara speaks to them, she still speaks in English, and they understand her perfectly. Done all that good work, and then just couldn't be bothered to take that extra step, could they? And I know that's a lot of work to do, isn't it? Make the main voice actor re-record every line of dialogue in one or two languages extra. I know it's a lot of work, but
do it all or don't do it at all. Really.
Exactly. Don't set it as like an immersion setting and then have her just fucking gob out in the Queen's English and then be able to just return the bloody question in the native language. I'm not having it. So that annoyed me, but there you go. It's not going to ruin the game. Just an odd decision.
I mean, it's a nice little addition. I quite like the idea they've thought about that, but then you can imagine them sitting in there afterwards and going, well, what about Lara? And they've gone,
I ain't paying for that. Alan's it's one of those ones they take to Alan, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've gone, Alan, we've done this thing where we've actually got all the sort of C-level voice actors to re-record all their voiceovers in native language, but we just need a little bit more money to pay our star of the show to come in and do just 2 lots of the game again in foreign languages.
It'll only take a day, Alan. That's it. We've got it all locked down already, so you can just bash out in a day. That's all it'll take.
The one thing about that is that being from an English-speaking country, if she was delivering it really poor, I wouldn't have known. So they would have gotten away with it. If it was just slapdash, they would have gotten away with it. Obviously, those that do know the dialect would have been fuming. It probably would have caused hassle. But Alan could have sanctioned it, but he's obviously put his feet up and gone, nah, not having that bit. So we didn't get it. Odd.
Yeah, that is an odd decision, but also encouraging that they've thought about a few bits. I quite like the idea of what they've done with splitting the game out into different kind of difficulties that some people might be. Because, for example, imagine Paper picks that up and all of a sudden he's got to do some platforming or something that he's. Well, yeah, he can just go, well, I'm going to bung that down because I'm useless at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's and the main one for me is not for me, but the one that I see people complain about game after game is the puzzles in games. They're either really obtuse or they're not challenging enough or la 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 la. This has a go at catering to everyone. I'm a little bit through the middle. I'll get hot under the collar when things don't go my way, but generally I can usually work it out. But I know people that just don't want to play any sort of part of a puzzle game, and if you just tone that down in this setting, it will make things easier for you. So you can just get on with the bits you do enjoy, which is probably traversal and combat. Although
there's always been puzzle solving in Tomb Raider.
Yeah.
So if you don't be liking puzzle solving, I mean, no, that's not the attitude. I can't be saying that. But it's kind of like, don't go on there and go, bloody puzzles on here. Well, hello, it's Tomb Raider. Like, what are we doing? I don't know. But I guess it basically caters to different skill levels so that everyone can enjoy it to their, to their taste. And that kind of has to be applauded. I kind of think nowadays
it's wasted on me because I don't like touching things like that. I don't like remapping the buttons
or whatever.
Yeah, I don't like to remap the buttons either, even if it's easier to do it. It annoys me.
Yeah, I'm not too keen on doing that.
Developers' intent I like to play as. That's like when they done the Alien Isolation. It said the developer recommends you play it on hard, so I did, and it was fucking hard. I got through it. Biff didn't. Next.
He's going to be livid again, that Biff, when he listens to this. Good though. Get up his nose on multiple ways and platforms. That's the game of the game. But yeah, I think it's quite a good idea. With diversifying. That's what I was looking for. We're doing that a bit, but I was thinking to myself the other day how kind of an outdated premise game difficulties are in themselves. There was one the other day that, what was it? I think it might have been Hotline Miami I was watching, and when they were selecting the difficulty, you've got easy and you've got casual. Right? So which one's the easiest out of easy and casual?
Casual.
Is it though?
Well, whatever one's at the bottom.
Well, yeah,
maybe,
I mean,
or
that's,
top.
you can
I
always
don't
go
know.
that way. But it's like, why have we got an easy and casual? They're
Is there a
almost.
normal mode?
What?
Is there a normal mode?
Yeah, so I can't remember what they're called, but one of them was
Right.
basically a mode for, and well, that's it. So it said it was like a mode for novice gamers, which I think was easy, and then there was casual mode, which was it said for more casual gamers. So what's the difference between a novice gamer and a casual gamer?
I don't. Well,
Well, I mean, there's a slight
Tomato,
difference.
innit,
But
that one.
imagine if you're looking at that and you're thinking, well, what are we doing here?
should be playing that low. These people they should be playing at least normal minimum.
I mean, but it got me thinking. It's like, give people the option to customize it a bit more, and that's what Tomb Raider's done. So, thumbs up on that.
Yeah. Some games dynamically change as well. Like GTA and Red Dead don't have difficulties, do they? From what I remember, they're just standard games.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know if they adapt or get easier or harder depending on your performance, but I know Resident Evil did that, although you chose between like normal or hardcore, which changed a few parameters. But I think in normal it would adjust up or down depending on.
There's
how
just
well
some
you're doing.
bullshit that goes on in Rockstar games sometimes. I think that's what makes it hard sometimes, is you poke your head up and you get shot and you go, right, well, that ain't
Ain't it
happened in
me?
the past 5 times when I've tried it. And has he done that, and where is he, and what guns he got? Sometimes I've experienced that, especially in GTA. You're
Shot through fucking walls, unbelievably.
Yeah. But anyway, so we digress again. So where are we at? So essentially we've covered, it looked good, the voice acting's all right, the storyline's pretty poor. We've covered some of the bases. Do you want to move on to AOB?
Yes, we can. There's a few bits I've got in here.
Okay.
We can run through. Actually, just if we look at we talked about the difficulty levels of puzzles, traversal, combat. As I said, the puzzle element I think was good across the main game, and then for the challenge puzzles. The traversal, that was a little bit off-putting because Lara felt very floaty, and I need to go back and play Uncharted 4 Thief's End because I want to see if this is a problem with that. I don't remember it being a problem, but there's certain jumps that you as a player can make in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and it feels disconnected to how Lara naturally jumped. It feels like she's sort of jumping too far or further than she should, and getting sort of magnetised towards the edge, because obviously they don't want you to just fall because you mistimed the jump very slightly. So the traversal in that sense is a little bit not that great, in all honesty. It feels a little bit floaty. And I do want to go back to play Uncharted 4, although they are different games. They do share a lot of characteristics in that it's a gun-based combat game with lots of traversal and climbing and bits and pieces. And there are good elements to the traversal, like you can get up these rock walls with your two sort of hooks that you can upgrade and put them on your feet, so you can do inverted like rock climbing, which is quite good, and it sort of messes with your perception a bit. So there are some good moments in it, but it just didn't feel quite as tight as I'd hoped for. But the underwater stuff, so there's a lot of underwater elements where you're swimming underwater, going from point A to point B, or to air pocket, going through little coves and whatnot. They are really, really well done. Like some of the best that I've had in a sort of a third person action or adventure game. If you've got a fear of drowning, like I haven't, or don't want to drown, but it's not one of those things that you have fucking nightmares about. I go, oh, fucking hell, I was drowning then. Like now I've said it, tomorrow I'll be like, right, I had that drowning dream, didn't I? But if you have got that fear, and some people do, this will really get up you and make you uncomfortable, because there's moments where you're struggling to get out of like a little cove or something, and I don't know how they did it. They make the game feel really claustrophobic. They frame it just right, and if in most games you never feel like your character's in that much danger that they're going to drown. Like,
Yeah.
In this, there's moments where I thought, fuck me, I'm not going to make it out of here at this rate, and it's probably scripted, and if I wasn't awfully bad, I would have got through that section, without drowning. But they do such a good job of framing it and zooming right in and showing that struggle and how small the gaps are. You think, fuck me, she's not going to get through there, and then you're relieved when you finally get out and get some air. But the underwater sections are really good, I must say. So definitely have to call those out. And then the combat. This is, I think, quite lousy, this combat. Lara feels a bit skittish. Like she's... if you if there's a spider on the floor, yeah? Like one of those really quick ones.
Yeah.
Like if you bang next to it, it'll fucking steam off and jolt and be gone. And it'll get under the chair and you've lost your shot. Lara feels like that a little bit.
Right.
Like she doesn't feel weighted. It's all very much like jar, aim, bang.
A bit like a Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. I mean, she just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel impactful when you shoot people or kill people. This is the gunplay anyway. The cover mechanics okay, but she just doesn't feel very responsive. And a couple of times I died. I thought, I wonder if that's actually the game's fault and not mine, which is a common theme of mine. But I did wonder to myself whether the fact that she got snarled up on a bit of of an environment and didn't go where I thought she was going to go cost me.
Everyone gets to a point in a game at some point where they go, I've done all I can do there, and I've still not succeeded. So what are we doing?
Yeah, but so the combat's a little bit like the gun combat is not that good. Stealth combat's quite fun. So you can stealth as Lara, and there's a couple of extra features they've brought into this one whereby you can hide in a wall that's covered in like a moss or something, like a shrub or mud. You can get Lara to put mud over her body so she can blend in with that particular piece of environment, which means people will walk past you and not notice. Obviously you can stealth kill them with your axes and whatnot, which is quite good. You can set little traps, you can use bow and arrows. There's some good stealth combat here, which I know you're not a fan of, but it just makes things a lot easier, especially when you're dealing with this skittish Lara with guns. You kind of don't want it to kick off. One thing I will say on the combat side is I think they kind of know that it's not that great.
Right.
Because they don't actually... There's not a great deal of combat, it feels like, in comparison to other games in this genre or even the previous ones. They're quite stretched out. They're not... You have to do it sometimes, obviously, but it doesn't feel like it's as prominent as other games, which I think's a good way to do it. Focus on the exploration side of things, focus on the discovery, focus on the puzzle side, which is the right thing to do. But they could have tightened up the controls. And this, to be honest, is where I kind of felt like there was a disconnect between the two developers. We said we had Crystal Dynamics who'd done the first tool, then Eidos had done this one. That's the biggest noticeable change that I kind of picked out, was that the combat didn't feel that tight. And who knows, maybe I'll go back to Tomb Raider 2013 and play that one day and go, core, just as bad. But it doesn't feel... I don't have that lingering thought in my head, whereas with Shadow, I will do.
It's never going... It's done, it's dusted, it's in the... It's locked down now. That's never going to be back. I get what you're saying, though. It's like you don't remember it being that poor, but it could have been because time's moved on.
Yeah.
But so there's a couple of pluses and negatives that we've kind of digged out there. I think I'm kind of happy to move it to the crescendo, which is...
Oh, one last thing.
Nope.
These collectibles that you pick up, letters... ornaments, artifact, all this shit that you pick up.
Yeah.
We're talking about Alan saving money, yeah? We're saying that he's not willing to put the money in to ever speak two languages. Well, the he's put out the money to make a fucking voice every single artifact you pick up. So you know how normally you'll pick something up and it'll be like a pot or something and it'll say, I don't know, Indian heritage, blah, 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 and it'll have like a description about it and you think, I'm not fucking reading that. Yeah. No, you pick this up in this one, you go into the menu once you've picked it up, and Ms. Cross herself will narrate that little section of dialogue, which I thought was a really nice touch, because I like that sort of stuff. I like all the little bits of lore that you can find in games, but I can't be bothered to fucking sit through and read all the bastards. And Shadow of the Tomb Raider says, no, you don't have to. She will narrate that. So you think, I'll just stretch my back out here and listen to this nice bit of lore I've picked up. And it does make a difference, especially when there's journals that you're picking up and they're a page long. You can just sit back and just.
It's one of my pet peeves of gaming. Is fucking
get your reading glasses on, they say.
Yeah, is collectibles and lore. Destiny was the fucking worst for it by far. It's like all the lore's there. Yeah, but you got to fucking read about 4 books. Well, no, fuck off. I shouldn't have to read 4 books to know what's going on in your fucking game. It's ridiculous. Not doing it. Hate it. Hate it in games when they give you all these collectibles and lore and fucking comic book series to explain it all. Well, I'm glad it's there, but I ain't fucking reading it.
No, it's it's why I thought that was a good move, because the last game I remember doing that, and there's probably been another one, but the last one that I really remember was Mass Effect. There's a codex, and that used to have a shitload of stuff. When you'd encounter a new alien, you'd go in there and there'd be this narrator in there that would talk through about 90% of the stuff. Not 100% was in there, which I found odd. Maybe again Alan went, right, shut that down, it's costing too much. But in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it's 100%. It's all there. It's great, which is fun.
Interesting. So again, I always shake these up in my head, so a little insight into Dim Digital behind the scenes. I never know the scores. I might have a feeling for things, because I've known you for a while, and I know generally what you'll like and what you won't like. I know what things will really get up your nose and what won't. So I can normally get an idea of where it's shaping up. But some of these, I genuinely don't know. I mean, I've got in my head of where I think this is gonna lie. But if you want to put us out your misery and give us your official grading.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider is going to earn itself a 7 out of 10 bronze rating.
That's exactly what I thought it was. So based on the logic, you can go through it after, because I like that. But the way that I saw it is it starts off at a 6, doesn't it? Or is it 5?
5. Well, 5, and then you get a few boosts along the way.
You get points.
You normally you start off at 5. You're doing a bad job really if you sit on 5. Most games, as soon as you pick up the controller, you should go, right, that's now 6. And then if it's broken,
you've got this far. You've got me sitting down here to play it.
Yeah, exactly. So you should be getting 6s at that point. If it's broken, that's when you start going backwards like Spurs.
It's very true. Yeah, we start regressing back down to shit scores. No, it makes sense. I think by the sounds of it, there's a lot of positive stuff. You know, it's never going to touch the top tier, as they like to say on those punditry programs. You're always a top tier player, but it's never going to get there. But 7 out of 10 is too shabby.
Yeah, no, it was. I think it helped that although it took me longer than it should have done to complete and to clock, it wasn't bloated. It wasn't long. It felt right. So coming off the back of 2 other games where I haven't felt like that, I felt like my time has been wasted to a certain extent, unnecessarily extended, or I should say. This was a lovely thing to kind of walk into. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and would probably struggle a little bit, but I enjoyed it enough. I think this formula has probably run its course a little bit with Tomb Raider. If they did a 4th one, and didn't change much more of it or expand it, there would be lower scores inbound. I think they peaked with the first one because it was a bit of a new idea and a new take on a new franchise. Rise kind of expanded it, and then Shadow kept it going but didn't quite keep up with its brother and sister. I'm just looking back at the old scores that I've given. I don't know if I've done a review on Rise, but I gave it a 8 out of 10 silver, so dropped off a little bit. But as we know, 7 out of 10 is still good in this realm because you get that little bronze medal next to your name in your game. Alan's happy with that.
That seal of approval, that all important DIMP seal of approval. So a new little feature that we've been doing the past few is having a look at some of the reviews from those more famous outlets that you may be familiar with. I don't really like giving them airtime because they don't deserve it. They're not sitting there talking about Dim Digital. But we'll let them off. Someday they might, and at which point we'll remind them that we were talking about them years ago. Anywho, so Lucy O'Brien from IGN says 9 out of 10. Shadow of the Tomb Raider offers up a powerful finale to Lara Croft's origin trilogy.
Nonsense. I would, as I said, the narrative wasn't up to scrub here. So to say powerful suggests to me that she was really impressed with the narrative, and the Origins trilogy is complete for Lara. Don't agree with you there, Lucy.
A lot of people have got this emotional kind of love for Tomb Raider as a name, though, for this what they've done, and the nostalgia bit.
The nostalgia's there, but I think a lot of people have attached themselves more to this version as well, because she's a bit more, especially in the first one, like vulnerable. She's not all singing and dancing, globe-trotting murderer, which she will go on to be, because that's essentially what she is, going around shooting people for a living. So you kind of see the story and see her build up, I guess, over these three. So maybe there are people that are attached to this version of it and have seen her sort of mature, I guess, in this Shadow entry.
So the next one we got here is reviewed by Aoife, I think it is, or Aoife, Aoife Wilson. I think that's the name. But it's no recommendation.
Right, bin these fucking Eurogamer fucks. They're not going to put scores on it.
But the thing is, on the OpenCritic page, you get 4 highlights. So I'll just go through those. But anyway, she says, slick and overly downbeat. Lara's latest sees the reboot trilogy end just as it began.
She's talking in riddles.
Well, yeah, like Poch. Next one. PC Gamer. Andy Kelly. They're on their own scale, aren't they, PC Gamer? 84 out of 100.
8.4, that is.
Yeah, in old money. 4 stars, really. Nearly 4.5. Yeah. So, a great focus on raiding tombs and massively improved stealth combat make this one of Lara Croft's best modern adventures. Maybe.
Yeah.
Plausible.
I can, yeah. I mean, if you're honing in on those particular improvements, then I think you're onto something. Was the package as good as the others? I don't know. I think that maybe they've just addressed a few of the problems people had, so they it kind of put them on a higher kilt based on that, because like I said, the main thing was there was none of this tomb raiding going on, really. And they absolutely addressed that in this one. So if you liked the core of the game, like I said, the combat I don't think was great, but that may have been the case in the other two, thinking back. If you've liked the game until then, it probably does offer some steps forward for fans of it.
And the final review is from Games Radar, Rachel Weber. 4 stars out of 5.
Yeah.
The final and strongest entry in the rebooted trilogy, this adventure sticks to Lara's strengths while embracing its dark side.
Again, not as I think that's acceptable. There's a lot of people saying how this is now the strongest one, aren't they? They're saying this is, the best one.
Yeah.
And if you look at the scores, you'll actually see that it's actually the third best one. So these fucking, these reviewers keep talking about how it's the best, and yet the numbers don't support that. 86 on OpenCritic for Rise of the Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition has landed at an 85. Shadow of the Tomb Raider sitting at an 80. So it's dropped off, you fucks. At least it has in my view.
There you go.
Maybe it hasn't dropped off. Maybe it's just because it's more of the same.
It's always difficult because people will be forgetting those ones that are 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah,
that's the trouble. So it's that recency that makes it seem all the better, because the brain ain't paying attention to what happened 5 years ago, isn't it?
No. That's why these scores are interesting to go back and look at, because you can't get away from that. His brain at that point had it, so he was telling you then it was better.
They should look at that, really. They should check themselves and not just go, oh, it's the best one yet. Well, is it, though? Because 3 years ago, when you reviewed the last one, you were saying that one was higher. So what are you doing?
Yeah, to be honest, I hadn't checked what my score was before I came into this. It's only whilst we did that bit at the end, I thought, I'll have a look and see what I gave it. And I think that fits in right with me, that it sits a score below, because it is more of the same. Yes, they addressed some problems, but either it run its course in that it come up with some new problems that I weren't really paying attention to before because it was still new, or it went backwards a little bit. So I think, 7's a good score. It's better than what we've been seeing lately coming out of this gob, so I've got to be happy with that.
Yeah. Right. Let's lock this one down then. 7 out of 10 in the bag. Thank you very much for joining me, Apps.
Yeah.
And for everyone that's got this far, thanks for your time. And ta-da.